Hi folks, and welcome to the next episode of the Franchise Entrepreneur. In today's episode I want to talk about something that comes up very often on social media and also in conversations that I have with franchisees and mentees, and it's financial freedom. Now, we've all heard this bandied about, but what does that actually mean and look like to you and me? Because it can mean very different things to different people depending on what the circumstances are. You know, for instance, I heard just the other day someone say that £10 million would not be enough for anyone to have financial freedom. Now, I think that's way on the extreme side. I don't think you need anywhere near that kind of amount. Now, that may have been applicable to him, and it may be applicable to the environment that he works in and lives in, but I would dispute that. 10 million is an awful lot of money, but if you're someone that is currently flying a personal jet and drives around in a Ferrari and spends 100 grand a year on holidays, then 10 million pounds probably wouldn't last you very long. But for 95% of us, if not more, in fact I think it's probably the top 2%, we don't live our life like that. And the reality is, and this is a fact, that most of us never will be in that kind of bracket. So what does financial freedom look like for the average Joe? And when I'm talking about the average Joe, most of the people that I talk to are people who are probably earning above average wage, and I think the average wage in the UK is somewhere between 26 and 30,000 pounds. So most of the people that are in my kind of groups and my sort of sphere of influence and people that I mix with are the next bracket on. So they're probably earning somewhere between sort of 30 and 60,000 pounds. So I want to talk about what financial freedom is for the average person and in that other category. So maybe not the top 5% earners. So of course this is all about my opinion, and this is what I'm trying to work to as well, because obviously financial freedom is something that I want to achieve, and this is part of my journey as well. And I'll keep on referring back to this, and I'll update people on how I'm progressing and so on. But I'm going to put into action what I believe in, and what my opinions are. So I'm going to try and follow the kind of blueprint that I'm going to suggest. So right from the off, it's important to understand that financial freedom for you personally is different from family financial freedom into the future, or it's certainly dependent on your children's ages and where you are within your life. So for example, if I'm setting out on my journey now and I'm 60 and my kids are already 30 years old, the chances that I establish financial freedom for me and my wife but not for my children are higher, because I'm starting later. And whatever finances that I build up are, because it's later in life, it's not going to provide the financial freedom for my children, but it could provide financial freedom for myself and my wife. So time has its part to play and is obviously very important. The sooner you start out, the sooner you can achieve the financial freedom. So for example, again, I'm 50, I've just turned 50. My two children are aged 6 and 9. So I have a plan that I hope will provide financial freedom for me in the next few years, and then for my children when they are in their 20s and later. So I basically have 15 odd years to provide financial freedom, not just for me, but for my children. Financial freedom should come for me earlier. So for someone like myself in the stage of life that I'm at, financial freedom might look like this. earn a good salary without having to be present in my business. I take maybe £100,000 a year and pretty much have the days to myself, doing what I want, maybe work, maybe long lunches, maybe play golf, go to the gym, networking, maybe even setting up a secondary income. But I don't need to be present in my business. The wage I earn meets all of my outgoings. I live in a decent home. I take nice holidays. I save a little each year. That's a decent life for most, and most would love that freedom and that knowledge that they don't need to work within their business in order to keep on earning their money. However, I'm not sure that would tick the box of financial freedom. It's, to me, too vulnerable and would not take a lot for that to be turned upside down. You know, a downturn in your business, you're not maybe have saved enough money to ride out those periods of drought. So I'm not sure that's a great place to be. It's certainly better than most, and for a lot of people that would be a fantastic lifestyle. But it's a good basis to start from. So let's make a couple of changes to that scenario. Let's say your wage is $150,000 a year and you don't need to be present in your business. Let's say your business now makes a retained profit after taxes of $250,000 annually and is expected to increase in line with inflation or 5-6% each year. Now I believe you have a scenario whereby not only you but your family can truly become financially free over a period of time, and not a very long period of time. This scenario, I think, is within reach of most people who own a business, because it's not extreme. You know, earning £150,000 a year and having a retained profit within the business is a healthy business and a decent lifestyle. It's not extraordinary. There's probably a lot of people who I know and who are running franchises or other businesses who actually fit into this scenario. But you still need discipline in this area and in this scenario in order to achieve financial freedom. If you earn $150,000 and you spend a lot every year, and in fact you go into overdraft and then you pull out all your profits each year, and again you spend all of that without being disciplined in the strategy that you need to put in place to give you financial freedom for yourself and your family going forward, then you're always going to be not poor, but you're always going to be, you're never going to achieve that financial freedom. You know, if you're a spender and you spend every penny that you've got and you've always been that way and you've been ill-disciplined with your finances, then it doesn't matter how much money you have, the chances are you're going to take that mindset with you. So this scenario, the wage enables you to live a good life, certainly not missing out on anything, and even enabling you to save a fairly decent amount each year, maybe 20,000-30,000 a year, maybe more, depending on the lifestyle you want to have. Your retained profits you invest in either property or in shares, maybe 200,000 a year. Nothing terribly exciting or risky is required here. It's just a steady investment strategy. So I guess we've all probably heard of compounding your investments. So you continually reinvest. That requires steady investment over a period of time and discipline to keep on doing it. So let's fast forward this strategy 10 years. So you've investments somewhere in the region of probably 3 million at this point, because you've been investing that 200,000 a year. A business that has expanded by 6% a year, even assuming you have not invested the remaining 50k of retained profit a year, you're now making a retained profit of 450,000 a year. So that's with the 6% increase year on year. Your savings are 30k a year. You've bought a buy-to-let each year. You now have 10 of those. So you can now see within a relatively short period of time, 10 years is not a long period of time. And if you're fortunate enough to have been in that situation when you're in your 30s, by your mid-40s, you've pretty much reached what I would consider a pretty healthy lifestyle. You've got a considerable amount of investments. You've got a business that is continually making profit. And you've got your personal investments as well in terms of income that you might be generating from these buy-to-lets. All of a sudden, this financial freedom is not only a possibility, it's actually now a reality for you. And that's not £10 million, because it's the important part of this is that you've got ongoing revenue streams coming in. It's not just about money that you've got banked. It's not about just what your business is worth on paper. Yeah, what it's worth on paper means absolutely nothing. You've actually got tangible assets here that are earning you ongoing revenue streams. In this scenario here, to me, that's where I would like to be. That to me is financial freedom. The other side of this is that you have not had to work within your business. So what do you do with your time? You could have set up another business during this period and have an additional revenue stream coming in. So actually this picture is actually underestimated. It's actually looking a lot better than this. This scenario is achievable and realistic for most of us, but it absolutely is critical that you are disciplined in your approach and you compound the money that you make each year in your investments and you continue to reinvest. You know, we don't all need to aspire to be in the top 5% or 2% of the population that earns £1 million a year in order to achieve financial freedom. There are people who earn £1 million a year and don't achieve financial freedom because they spend all of the money. They don't invest it, they don't have the discipline. They make this money, they lose this money, they then have to make this money and then they have to lose it again. You know, and they perpetually go on this roundabout because they've never learned from the lessons that it involves discipline in order to finally reach financial freedom. How many people do you see that have become millionaires and then lost it all? There is nothing terribly exciting about this strategy, but I'm convinced that something as simple as this, once you get your foundations right, is very, very achievable for most of us. And like I said, there's plenty of upside to this scenario. Maybe not having to work in your business allows you to, like I said, to create another income stream. Then all of a sudden this picture looks even more interesting, and certainly a second income stream mitigates against some of the risks associated with a business owner and maybe having only one revenue stream coming in. And discipline is essential. If you're from a housing estate and you get £10 million, if you've had no discipline or financial discipline in your life and you've always spent every penny that you've earned, then the reality is that £10 million is probably going to slip through your fingers pretty quickly. So now to try and bring these scenarios back to franchising, or let's just say for example you are working for a company. So you're not working for yourself, you're working for someone else. You're currently on maybe £30,000-40,000 a year. How do you get to this scenario? Because like I said, you know, the ideal scenario here is £150,000 a year and owning a business. You don't necessarily have to leave your job in order to get yourself into this situation. Most people don't have jobs that pay them £150,000 a year or anywhere near that. Like I said, the average salary in this country is around the 30k mark or just under. How do you get to that? For me, I'm got a foundation where I can achieve this over a course of time. As long as I'm disciplined, this is a real reality for me. So if I was in the situation where I was earning more closer to the average salary, I would be looking at a scenario where I would be looking to continue to work within the business and the job that I currently have. So in order for you to achieve this, the reality is that you have to face reality. Be honest with yourself and be honest with the circumstances and situation that you're in. If you stay within your business, how far can you go? Or, sorry, not your business, or whoever you're being employed by. How far can you go? What's the opportunity for you to earn within that company? Assuming that you get promoted, assuming you work hard, the chances are you're not going to get beyond £50,000-60,000 a year. There's nothing wrong with that, but that will never give you the opportunity to achieve financial freedom, and certainly not in the scenarios that I've put in front of you. But you shouldn't discard that job. I think that's your basis, that's your foundation. Stick with that, but look at the other opportunities that are now available to you. And obviously internet, the rise of Amazon, and online selling gives you the potential to introduce a secondary income stream into your life without high setup costs. That's the beauty of selling on Amazon. If you can potentially look to do some courses, look to see how it's done, look to see how other people have done it. Amazon is not going away. Amazon is growing. It's growing something like 20% each year. You've seen the impact it's had on the high street. So this is still a big opportunity for anyone to set up a small business and buying and selling goods. This is a side hustle. So I'm talking about side hustles here. If you can bring in a side hustle that generates another £50,000 a year for you, then you're fast approaching the kind of numbers that I was talking about. And doing something online is a low setup cost, it's a low risk cost, and it's something that you can do in your own time without it impacting on your main foundation career. So it's perfect in that sense. You know, you can do it from your iPhone. That's the beauty of it. There's no real excuse for anyone not to be looking for a side hustle. This is your opportunity, but it involves discipline. You know, it's not just about the financial discipline that I talked about before. This is about a discipline to set up this business and to continue to operate it, spend time on it and nurture it in order to achieve your final goal. So Amazon is perfect for that. Online is perfect for that. If you can do that and make it successful, and I'd advise you to go on some courses to look at how this is achievable. There are lots of them around. Once you've started to generate that additional income, you can then maybe look at something like franchising, which again is potentially a good opportunity for you to buy an existing franchise model that's proven and create an additional income stream. You know, that franchise, whatever that may be, only needs to achieve £30,000-40,000 a year for you, and all of a sudden you're now hitting these kind of figures that we were talking about before of the 150 grand a year. You're now in a position where you can save a fairly significant amount of money each year to plough into other ventures, either expanding on your online business or potentially into buy-to-lets, property, or into franchise businesses. you've got multiple revenue streams coming in then. The main difference between this scenario and the one that I talked about is that you have to be present and working within those businesses in order to achieve those revenues. So you've still got your job, you've still got your daytime job, you're having to work in it. There's no escape from that. Certainly within the short term. This is probably at least a 10-year plan for you to get to a position of financial freedom if you're in this category of an average wage earner currently. There's no easy route here. There's no sort of magic wand unless you win the lottery. So you have to be realistic and you have to be disciplined, and you need to know what your goal is and your strategy is over this period of time. So there's a big difference there between my scenario and this one. You have to continue to work within your daytime job, and then these other things, these other income streams are bolt-ons. But I honestly believe that this is very realistic and is very achievable for anyone that wishes to eventually get to financial freedom, but is the average Joe and is not in the top 5-10% earners. They can still achieve this. Now, it could be once you get to a critical tipping point that you no longer work in your daytime job and actually you are earning sufficient money from the other income streams in order to put that to one side and dedicate that time to actually growing those other income streams. So franchising is great for this kind of scenario, whereby you've got the safety of an already proven business model, so that gives you some comfort. And what you can keep on doing with franchising is bolting on other businesses. So what have we established from this? What's financial freedom mean to each of us? And the reality is it can mean very different things to different people, depending on where they are and what stage of life that they are at, where their family is at, and what their personal circumstances are at. But not only that, it comes down to your mindset as well, and whether you're a disciplined person who has financial discipline. And all of these factors will play a part on whether you ever achieve financial freedom. And as I said, it is very different for different people. The guy that wants to earn £10 million a year, or doesn't feel that £10 million would ever be enough to give them financial freedom, for the most part, for most of us, that would be more than enough. But only more than enough if you're disciplined and you are working still to a strategy that enables that money to work for you and not be diluted and wasted. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. There's plenty of millionaires out there that have gone bust. For most of us, financial freedom looks very, very different from this. And I think the most that most of us could actually hope for is one of the scenarios that I've put forward. It's certainly something that I'm going to be working to, and I hope to achieve over the next 4 or 5 years. So just remember, when someone is putting on social media about their financial freedom, etc., it's very different for each of us. And don't judge yourself or where you are in your life at this moment in time against other people and what they're putting on social media. They may have a very different idea and opinion of what financial freedom means to them. But just remember this, financial freedom is not just going to land on your lap. It involves decision making. It involves discipline. It involves you doing something, taking a step forward. Otherwise, it's just talk. It doesn't just appear. It's something that you have to work to. It's one of the main things that is spoken about when people come to me and talk to me about my franchises and taking one of our franchises, or just wanting to talk about franchising in general. And when you ask them why they want to get into this type of business, and financial freedom is right up at the top of the list of the things that they believe that they can achieve by doing it. But then when you ask them what financial freedom looks like, they don't know. So I think you need to have a clear idea of what financial freedom means to you. Not what it means to people in general, but what it will actually mean to you. Rather than just bandy it, phrase around, actually understand what it really means to you. Just because someone else has said that £10 million isn't enough, doesn't mean that that's your scenario. Yours could be a hell of a lot less than that. It could be far more achievable than what you actually initially believe. You may not be far away from it. You may not be as far away from it as you believe. It may be something that is really attainable for you, which you never thought was attainable for you. I hope having this podcast and just discussing this a little bit on what some scenarios might look like, register a little bit with your situation, and maybe you realise that maybe you're not so far away from achieving this as you maybe thought you were. So I hope you found this useful. I'm going to be probably talking about this again at regular intervals, because I want to keep you updated on where I am on my journey on achieving my financial freedom. And I hope that the scenarios that I put forward and how I get to it or don't get to it, and the mistakes I make or the achievements that I make, will help you along your road to financial freedom. So thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to doing the next episode, same time next week.